episode. Thank you so much for your support. Real quick, I wanted to tell you about my business. That's STSG Marketing. When it comes to social media, it's a must for your business. If you're not doing it, you're missing out on tons of new clients and a way to engage with your old ones. So it's just super important. That's what I do. I can create content for you. I can manage your social media for you. I can coach you on how to grow your business through social media organically. If that's something you want a hand with, I would love to help you. Cruise over to my website. That's stsgmarketing.com. I would love to help you. Now let's get into the episode. Today we talk all about life coaches, and if you need one, with my guest, Nicole.
Sky, the service guy, staying up late at night, doing podcasts all the time, talking about service, yeah, that's right. Yeah, we got the sales, do we got the knowledge to make a mill? We just paying bills, all we know is time will tell. Sky, the service guy.
Hello, thanks for allowing me to be a part of your day. I'm Skyler Rader, Sky, the service guy. Today, I am joined by the talented Nicole.
Hello, Nicole van Rensburg.
I just thought it would be great for Nicole to say her surname for me because I didn't want to butcher it out of respect.
Thank you.
Nicole is a master certified life coach. She's the founder of EmpowerMe Coaching SA, which I believe is an acronym for South Africa. As a teacher of music and a coach for many years, Nicole saw a great need for high school students, the parents, and women to learn critical skills that will set them up for success in their life. Nicole, coming live from South Africa, thank you so much for making time for me. It is 9 a.m.-ish here. What time is it there?
It is about 4:07 in the afternoon. So I'm living in the future and you're living in the past, as you said yesterday.
Have you gotten most of what you need to get done today?
Yes, no, we are chilling now, rest of the day. So we got a braai planned just now. I don't know if you know what a braai is there in America. So it's like a barbecue. It's a South African version of a barbecue. So it is hot here. So we are going to go outside and swim and braai. That's
well, you had me sold on barbecue. Like you're speaking my language. That's my love language now. I don't know. So.
Oh, yeah. Us too.
As always, we're going to focus on three main points of emphasis today. And Nicole, obviously, anything else that comes up in conversation is fair game. I want to do a deep background on your dive on your background from musician, professional musician, to life coach. I also want to dive next into your business. I want to learn, what does it mean to be a life coach? Who needs a life coach? What does that actually entail? And then the final part is I want to take a step back into the journey over the last year.
Awesome.
Were you really starting your entrepreneurship, experience like the rest of us here? So,
that's great.
Just to knock it out of the park here and get going. The first thing I want you to tell me about is start at the beginning. How do we become a professional musician? And then how did that lead to where you're at now?
Professional musician. Lots and lots and lots of practice in your instrument of choice, or instruments of choice in my case. So I initially trained as a pianist when I was very, very young, but I didn't really connect very well with the piano. So then I started playing the recorder and started playing along. The recorder is just like a little plastic, super cheap instrument. And I started playing along with records. My dad had an old record player, and I used to play along with Louis Armstrong. And he just realized as I was playing that I had quite a good ear for picking up music. Sure. So dived in there, bought a flute, and then bought a saxophone, and then eventually discovered that I could sing as well. So I really used all of those instruments in my performance career. It was such fun. I performed all over South Africa, weddings and corporates and whatever huge functions and festivals. So it was such an amazing time for me. I really, really enjoyed it. But, after a couple of years, it starts to get exhausting, especially if you're starting a family.
Sure.
To be away over weekends when it's family time is really tough. So, but becoming a professional musician, lots of practice.
Okay.
Is what it is about. But lots of passion too. You got to love it, because if you don't love it, you can't weather.
How long was that period?
I started performing when I was 14, actually. I released my first album when I was 14. And then I started performing up until, well, actually do every now and then still perform. So that was about 19 years, I would say, that I was a professional performer. So I started very young, but performed for many, many years, and sometimes more in a part-time capacity, depending on what I was going for, but full-time, easily 9 to 10 years.
Oh, wow. Was, you mentioned playing, like, as you're listening to records with your dad. How much of your parents was that an influence on you continuing that path as long as you did?
Oh gosh, I had super supportive parents. My father was unbelievably supportive in the journey. So he literally zoned in, and he became my manager, and he helped arrange everything for me. He did all the finances and all the stuff that I don't enjoy at that point. And who wants to deal with finances at that point, right? You're 16. You just want to spend the money. So he booked the gigs for me, and it was a really fabulous, fabulous time. So the influence in terms of the music that he used to listen to was a lot of jazz and old school music. So I really had a huge love for that kind of music. And when I studied music as well, I studied jazz. So I absolutely love Sinatra and Bublé. And Ella and all those classic jazz artists. So that was kind of my favorite genre to sing and perform in. And hence why I also learned the saxophone. So it was a lot of fun.
Wow. I'm just kind of blown away to be that talented. That's a tremendous amount of talent. You mentioned, having a child, and it's like now that weekend time, that family time. Was that the catalyst that led you to the next step? And then how did we make that next step?
I actually, when I got married, my husband, a wonderful man, he happened to be interested in sound engineering. So he became my sound engineer as my dad was getting a bit old, and he was really struggling, carrying the speakers and the whole thing. So my husband kind of took over from there, and then I did the management and marketing side and the performance side, of course, and he would do the sound for me. So that was really fun. So we were married for about 4 years before we had our first child. And, family's always been really important to me. So when I had my son, we started scaling back a little bit, and I just couldn't bring it over my heart to keep sending my children away over a weekend when I had to go do a 9-10 hour gig. So I don't know, and it also, I started feeling like there was something else that I needed to be doing, something new. So touched in on a couple of new things, looked at teaching music, which I ended up absolutely loving. Oh, wow. So that was my new transition was moving into teaching.
Okay.
So I started teaching initially just instruments and singing, which was really fun.
Sure.
And being a new mom, we're going to make some stable income. So I took on a full-time teacher's post, which scared me so much. It's terrifying. I was like, I'm a musician. What am I doing in the classroom? But okay, so I went into teaching, did a qualification in that. So ended up being a full-time teacher. And those of you who are full-time teachers know that you go in thinking you're going to be just a music teacher, but you end up teaching whatever they have that needs to be taught.
Right.
So I had a huge growth journey and actually loved it, really. I love working with children and seeing them grow.
Okay.
So that to me was very fulfilling. And going in as a music teacher, helping other singers and other musicians, I found more fulfilling than myself performing, if that makes any sense.
Yes, absolutely.
Seeing them smash their goals and, break the limiting beliefs that they have. I found that just next level for myself. Yeah. So it was a good transition for me.
Do you think that's what planted the seeds from teaching to coaching? Is there, in your mind, is there a correlation between those two? Are they one and the same, or are they different?
Definitely the seed was planted. I was always very sensitive. Well, as a musician, you are quite sensitive which is sometimes not great, but I've managed it now. So I was always very sensitive to how the students in my class were feeling and their mood and I always wanted to help them to feel seen. Whether they loved my subject or not, I don't care about that. For me, it was about whether that teenager or a young child is seen as a person and not just a number. And that helped me to reach out to students when I saw they were battling. I said to them, hey, do you need some help? Do you want to chat? And then I started helping one of my grade 10 students. I don't know what the grades are there in America. I'm not sure. But
we have 10th grade.
Oh, you do have 10th grade. Okay. So
yeah, we call it it's a sophomore, but it's 10th grade.
There we go. That's it. Yes. So I ended up helping him with his time management, and I helped him all the way into his final school year. And that was, to me, I think, the full-on catalyst. Really connecting with a student one-on-one or in a small group and helping them with everything other than the curriculum, to me, felt more meaningful at that point.
I feel like, maybe I'm getting on a sidetrack here, but the curriculum that is taught to us in school isn't exactly the curriculum that needs to be taught to us in life.
Well, that is a whole nother rabbit hole we can go into because I feel exactly the same. And I understand that if one goes deeper into the content or deeper into what they're trying to do in education, you can pick out the tools and the skills that they're trying to teach you. But I feel like there's so much more. Where's the course on emotional intelligence? Where's the course on managing your mind? Those two things are unbelievably critical in survival of life, whatever industry you go in, and I feel like it should be core. And time management. What do you do with all this chaos that you have to manage? I mean, we know as adults how insane it can get, and we only figure it out through trial and error. So why don't we equip our young people earlier with that? But I understand, I will not fight that system at this point. We'll do that later. But I feel very passionately about that exact point that you mentioned. So we will see where things go.
Right. It's one of those things. I think for myself, I'm 33. I don't think I still battle with time management, and my way of compensating is just to start my day earlier, so I have more of it. Mm-hmm. But even then, I have to tell myself, when it gets to this time, you have to move on to the next thing. When you're working with a young person on that, how does that? I guess my question is, how quickly, is there a specific age that you see them being able to understand that concept more than others? Is there a
Yes, there's definitely, I specifically focus on high school students and beyond. I have sort of dipped my toes into slightly younger, but I feel that they're not quite, how shall I say, it's not urgent enough for them to want to manage those things. They still want to play. And you know what? Give it to them. Let them please play as young as possible. It's becoming too serious, too young. I don't know if you feel that way as a parent, but it's too serious, too young. Can we just play for longer? But okay.
Yes.
So I feel definitely from 8th grade, 9th grade, they can kind of see the end of school journey. It's not so far away anymore. And then they can see, very soon I'm going to need to choose subjects. And those subjects will determine my university or college applications. And that to them becomes urgent. And that pressure also comes from their parents. So from about that point, 8th grade, that's the way. That's where you can really start easing them into the concepts of managing their lives a little bit, and taking ownership of their own lives is important.
So is it mostly high school, or is there also parents that you're coaching? Is there people like me that you're coaching?
Yeah, well, I coach high school students, university students, and their parents. Oh, wow. Whether it be women or men, it's okay. I don't mind. And especially if I'm coaching parents, it could be improving their lives to help improve the lives of their children.
Sure.
Because I have found that if I'm not my best, I'm not a best parent. So I have to grow so that I can, I don't know if you've had the similar experience, like ridiculous fears that I had before I had children. Suddenly became so clear to me. And I thought, wow, do I really want my child to be scared of that? So then I have to overcome it so that I am an example of what is possible and what, because they emulate us. So
right.
I feel the same with my students. A lot of the stuff that I coach on is not stuff that I haven't. Wait, let me rephrase it. I coach on things that I've experienced.
Sure.
And if I haven't experienced it, I get the tools and I coach, but I do make it clear that this is not something I've experienced, but it's something you can try out that I've researched. So, yeah.
Is there a specific fear that you've been able to overcome through your coaching?
Spiders.
Okay.
So I will now be in a room with a spider.
Okay.
I will go close to it as long as it doesn't move. Because if it moves, then it's over. Game over. I run the fastest ever. But if it's there and it's fairly still, I'm good. And bugs, I'll get close to bugs. So mainly spiders, I would say.
That's so funny. The gentleman you were talking to before me that was in my office, yes. he's actually our pest control manager who oversees taking care of all the bugs here in the States for us. Going full circle.
Yeah. Bugs, yeah. So bugs, I'm still working on some of them. Moths freak me out, but we'll get there.
It's a journey, right?
It is, absolutely.
So speaking of that, can you help us differentiate between needing a life coach and needing a therapist? Or are they one and the same?
That's a huge misconception. So life coaching is still a fairly new industry. If we compare it to psychology and therapy and counseling, psychology, therapy, and counseling kind of overlay a little bit. It depends on the qualification level. Then you would go to psychologist or whatever. But if we're looking at therapy, counseling, and psychology, what their main focus, and I'm not saying it's their only focus, of course, therapists expand, but they look at past experiences, traumas, right. And any unresolved situations that might have happened in the past, or severe depression or severe emotional and mental issues are generally dealt with by psychologists, psychiatrists. Therapists and counselors also deal with current but mainly traumatic experiences. Where life coaching, I initially thought that that's what I wanted to do, be a psychologist, but when I looked into it, it was not what I was interested in. I wanted skills for now and going forward. And that's the realm of life coaching. Life coaching is for current skills and tools to help you move forward in your life. We do sometimes talk about the past. Of course we do, because sometimes that prevents us from moving forward. But we're not talking about the past the whole time. And life coaching is also very action orientated. So we're not just going to talk. We're going to get things done. So we're going to make plans, we're going to set goals, we get you moving incrementally to where you want to be. And that excites me. I'm sure you can see me. I'm like, whoo.
Yeah, you're fired up.
So I love that. And seeing people's transformation, especially when they come from somewhere that is they feel like they will never get out of it, and to slowly start to see the lights coming on. And then realizing slowly, I can be more confident. I can do things. I can get to my goal. I'm a little bit closer. Getting them excited about their present and their future is, to me, what life coaching encompasses. And also, sorry, you can ask.
No, you're fine. Finish it. You got me fired up now. Now my wheels are turning. You go ahead. You go ahead.
So one more thing I wanted to say about the life coaching, as much as that's similar to therapy, is to have someone outside of your mind to sometimes get perspective on what's going on. Okay. So you take it out, you unpack it, and then we look at it together without judgment, and then we make plans. Do we want to keep it this way? Do we want to change it? Do we want to? So holding you accountable, all of those things, just having someone with you on your journey is just it's next level. I love it.
And I think you're 100% right. It's one of the reasons. So me and my wife, when we were dating, there was a point where I lived out of state and I was working for a business, and she was there with me in spirit. But I needed that. I needed her to be there physically with me, and I ended up coming back here, and it was for the best. My question is, when you become someone's life coach, do we have hey, we're going to get our goals, we're at point A, we're getting to point B. Do you set ahead of time where, hey, once you get to this milestone, you're not going to need me anymore? Or is there a transition away from you? Or is it somebody, or are you hoping to work with someone forever?
I don't know. I'm actually hoping to work with them as long as they feel they need the support. I'm open to people working short term if they need a short term pursuit. But I have found that it does become a long term relationship. It's not, because we've got so many challenges, and that's what life should be. You should be challenged. Otherwise, you're stagnating. And having someone that, because it's sometimes tough to speak to your family openly. And I'm not saying that family is not supportive, but sometimes some of the things that you think and fear and are nervous about, you feel nervous to speak to that to your immediate family because, without them wanting to be, they might judge you about it. Even when I started wanting to be a life coach, my mom-in-law, and I love her very much, she's like, "What is that? That is ridiculous," and she thought it was crazy. She thought I was going to deal with, traumatized people, and I was going to be traumatized, and it was just going to be a disaster. And it's difficult to talk to your family sometimes. So when you're speaking to someone that's not your family, but that's close to you,
sure,
without judgment, and them holding your space for these wacky dreams and then making it possible for you, it's everything.
So kind of rewinding to something you mentioned, we're coaching high school, university, and parents. Mm-hmm. Is there ever any situations where you're coaching an entire family together?
I haven't actually done that yet. I'm very open to it. In my teaching career, I did have often with parent-teacher meetings, would have the parent come in and they'd drag their poor child along who's feeling mortified. And then we would have a chat. I'd definitely be open to that. I just haven't done that yet. But yes, that is definitely in the future, because if you want to really create change in a family, everyone needs to be on board in their own way. Right. It can't just be, although you can create tremendous change just by changing yourself.
Right.
There's still limitations when you're a child in someone's home and you want to make a change. The parents need to be on board. Otherwise, it's very challenging. Otherwise, they're going to have to kind of postpone until they leave the home, which is not ideal. If you've got big dreams for a career, and this is my biggest challenge, is my poor students get kind of pushed into choosing subjects and going into a career that they have no passion or no particular talent for. And that intense pressure and them trying to fight for what they're good at and what they want to do, it's tough. It's really tough. That's where I've got to fight for them with their parents a bit.
When you're working with somebody on goal setting, how do we manage expectations? Because as somebody who sets outrageous goals for themselves, I kind of live in a space of constant failure, which might look like success to other people, but it's because I set the bar so high and I'm kind of hard on myself. What would you say to somebody like me who needs to manage their expectations?
Well, you've got to relook at what you perceive failure to be. So I actually have in my podcast, which I don't know if we'll have a chance to talk about, but I actually speak about reframing success and failure. And a lot of people see success as a destination, as it's a place, successful when I have done that or I've gotten there. And actually that makes it super impossible because our goals keep shifting. So if we make success a place and we never get there because it's shifting, we'll never be successful. So that's frustrating. And then if we look at the polar opposite of failure as, I've completely stuffed up and it's a disaster, it's also terrible because knowing as an entrepreneur or as anyone going for a big goal, you're going to fail. Think of all the big people in history, they failed. They had to, because you got to know, okay, that's not the way. Let's go this way. And if you then change success to progress, I'm being successful when I'm progressing to where I want to be. And if I make failing as learning, that feels a lot better to me. Right. So I really work on conditioning that and getting comfortable with failures. It sounds terrible to be comfortable with failures, but to know that that's part of the journey and to be like, that's actually a step in the right direction. So that to me is part of the coaching, is getting them to realize those two concepts. I feel very passionately about that because I know I lived a long time in fear of failure. And when I made big choices, I was terrified. And I thought, I don't want to be too big, or I don't want to do this because I'm scared I'm going to fail. But actually, when I started to look into it, failure is part of the process, and it's necessary to know if you're in the right direction.
Right.
Well, that's how I feel.
So I guess my last question regarding the coaching part of this would be, what do we do when we have a student, or so when you're their coach, are they your student? Are they your pupil, or whatever it is? What do we do when somebody wants to give up, when they feel like they're done? What are some tools that they can use?
Well, we definitely dive into the reasons why they are feeling that way. It generally goes into either feeling not good enough, which is one of the core beliefs that we all struggle with, whether we feel like we're good enough. And if we can dispel that feeling of not being good enough, that generally resolves it. So we would definitely delve into what are the thoughts in your mind that are creating feelings in your body that's preventing you from carrying on, because we do everything based on a feeling. So we would definitely delve deeply into why. I wouldn't say to them, don't or do. That's not my role. My role is to investigate, why do they want to give up? What are the reasons? And then through that, we also look at whether their why of what they wanted was strong enough. Why did they want that original goal? What was the purpose of it? And if that is still there, we can pivot that, wanting to give up. So a lot of searching and questioning and re-looking at things.
I love that. That's awesome. You mentioned wanting to talk about your podcast, and I definitely want you to. I think we can kind of dive into our last point of emphasis, going over kind of back to your journey over the last year. You're a parent, so you're a mom, you have a business, you're marketing yourself with your podcast, you're helping people. How do we juggle it all? And what were some of the choices you've had to make over the last year that were really tough, and how did you handle those choices?
Sure, it was a big year. It was an amazing year. Sorry, I keep saying yo. Yo is a South African word, by the way. We say yo, like I'm just going to leave it there, but it's a South African word. So it was a very, very big year. And at the beginning, or actually at the end of last year, when I launched my business, I actually approached my school and asked them whether they would be open to me going part-time as a teacher. In other words, lessening my teaching load so that I could build this for the school and beyond. And I was very blessed to have an unbelievable headmaster who was unbelievably supportive in this journey. So he gave me great advice and he said, yes, let's go. And he said to me, the minute I start to become overwhelmed with my clients, because he believed so much in me, that I can then resign and go full-time. And I was actually aiming to go full-time only end of this year. Well, actually in now was my plan. And things grew so beautifully that I was able to resign mid-year. So that was very exciting for me, because my initial goal to go into the business was to be able to manage my time so that I could be more mom in the afternoon with my children. And that allowed me then to manage my time in the mornings and grow my business. And eventually I'll employ people and we'll grow it and help more. And this year, as I said, then I went full time, and I always had a vision and I always had a desire to create a podcast, but I didn't quite know what would be the format, what it would be about. So I just let it mull. So I worked on my business. I went all in, marketing myself in whatever ways I could figure out, working with the kids that I knew at school, exploring online, platforms where I could find clients. And it was a lot of trial and error this year. And I'm by no means a business master. That will be next year's goal. But I've learned to become patient with the journey this year. And I've just let things, when the time is right, the idea will come. And I just let it mull. And here in August this year, I was listening to another podcast, and this woman was talking about idea babies, where you take one radical idea and you mix it with another idea and they have a baby. And then I'm like, woo! And my brain exploded. And I decided that I was going to make this podcast for parents of high school students in South Africa. And I know that it's sort of targeted to South Africa, but it actually turned out to be
That's okay.
for any parent of a high school child. And I realized that would be my way of giving back to help the parents, whoever's listening, to help their teen get a perspective from the inside of coaching teens. And it's obviously not all teens, but that was the drive of releasing that. So end of October, podcast released. So fun. I've really been enjoying it. I'm on 5 episodes.
Hey, you got to start somewhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah, my first season I did 13, and it took me like 2.5 months to record them all. Wow. So it's like you said, it's a journey. I had to learn to be patient.
Absolutely. And it's not easy. It takes way longer than I thought, and you have this vision of 35-minute or 30-minute, and then editing that takes forever. But yes, it was so much fun. So I'm releasing every 2 weeks at the moment, just to keep it low key, and we'll see where things go. And but it's a lot of fun. So that's been my journey this year. It's just been like this thing, and then the level up, and then the next thing, and then the next thing. But it's been gradual, which I've loved, because I didn't want to be overwhelmed where I wanted to quit.
Sure.
And looking at the sort of statistics of new businesses failing scared me. So I'm just like, okay, let's take it easy. Let's just go with the flow. And that's been my year. It's been a lot of fun. It really has.
So what advice, going back to your podcast, is there any advice you can share today that would help any parents that are listening, whether they have little kids like mine or big kids, making that journey into high school and university?
I would definitely say be aware of their talents and their gifts and nurture those. Even if it scares you what the career would be if they were to go into them. My parents could have easily freaked out that music was my talent, because there's this stereotype of musicians are poor and whatever. But they supported it. And I am incredibly grateful that they did. They didn't force me to choose subjects that I completely despised because I must now be a doctor or I must now be, a secure job. And I really appreciated that about my parents. And that is what I'm trying to do for my children, is to notice their gifts and to not push them too much, but to acknowledge their gifts. Because if you feel like you're good at something, you have the strength and the courage to attack the things that you're not good at. So do not force your children to be who they are not. That is, to me, my greatest thing I would like to share, and that I'm trying.
Well, I love that. I'm probably going to apply most of that. My final kind of question for you as we wrap up: who coaches the coach?
Who coaches the coach? That's an excellent question. I am searching for my own life coach because I believe in it so much. And I've actually hired myself a business coach for next year to help me take my business to the next level. So coaches also have coaches. Most coaches, if you look at some of the big coaches, they'll all say that they've got their own mentors and their own coaches helping them move forward, because you can't do it alone. We're just human beings. We got the same issues and the same things that we're dealing with, whatever, imposter syndrome, whatever. We gotta get out of your own mind, because trying to coach yourself, you can, but you're sometimes too close to the problem. So you got to get someone else, unpack it, and then get a new perspective. So yeah, get my own coach is my vision for next year, but I got my business coach lined up.
I love it. Well, there you guys have it. Another amazing guest, Nicole. I really, really appreciate you making time for me. What we learned today on this episode is it's not really what you start your journey in, it's where it can lead you. We also learned a little bit about life coaching, who it's for. It sounds like it's for everyone. And at the end of the day, even the coaches need coaches. And then we also got a little bit of insight on what it takes to get a business started. And it sounds like you have to ease into it, but go all in at the same time. So maybe that's a topic for another day. Yeah. Nicole, thank you for coming on the show. I would absolutely love to catch up with you from time to time, check in on your business and hear more about how you're doing.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to be on your podcast. I really appreciate you inviting me, and it's been a delight. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Hold on for 1 second. I'm going to say goodbye to our audience, and I'll be right back, okay?
Sure. Bye.
Hey, guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoy content like this, be sure to like it, share it. All of Nicole's links are going to be in the description below. So definitely look out, reach out to her if you're looking for coaching. Obviously, she's a little bit more tailored towards South Africa, but I really believe in what she said today, and I think she can help anybody. But if you like content like mine, share it, like it, subscribe, and we will. I'll see you next Monday with another episode. So see you guys soon.
Sky, the service guy, staying up late at night, doing podcasts all the time, talking about service, yeah, that's right. Yeah, we got the sales, we got the knowledge to make a meal, we just paying bills, all